Hi, my name is Sydnee Visser, and I'm going to be presenting on the article entitled He Blew the Whistle and Giants Quaked. In my presentation, I'm going to start off by talking about the article. I'll give you the facts of the situation and what the article talks about, and then I will take you through Trevino and Nelson's 7 steps to whistleblowing, which is found in their ethics, their managing business ethics book. Okay, so the situation. In the article, we have James Alderson, and James Alderson is an accountant for a hospital, and the hospital needs to reduce costs, and so they bring in this professional management team to come in and reduce expenses. And this professional management team, they come up to Mr. Alderson and they say, "Do you have 2 expense reports?" And he says, "No, I don't understand why I need 2 expense reports." And they go on to tell him that one expense report is the correct expense report. It's used for internal documentation, and it's used in case the hospital's audited. And then the other expense report is padded a little bit more and is sent to the federal government so that they can get a bigger reimbursement from the government for these expenses. And Mr. Alderson, he puts it that he wouldn't file 2 tax returns for a person, so he's not going to create 2 expense reports, and he refuses to do this unethical act. And because of that, he's fired. And the article goes on to talk about how years later he still was angry and upset about being fired over this, and he wanted to stop the unethical practices that the company was performing, and so he decided to file a false claims lawsuit against the company on behalf of the federal government. And that's where the article ends. So now I'm going to talk about Trevino and Nelson's 7 steps to whistleblowing. I'm going to tell you what each of the steps is and how Mr. Alderson accomplished each step. So the first step is to approach your immediate manager. Mr. Alderson did this when he told the professional management team that he wouldn't act unethically. He told his manager that no matter what, he was going to do the right thing. And that's how he accomplished the first step. Now, the second step is to discuss the issue with your family. The article doesn't go a lot into Mr. Alderson's relationship with his family, but it does give the impression that they support him fully in what he does. And so I take it that he did discuss this with his family. He probably did discuss the fact that he would lose his job if he performed unethical acts, if he refused to perform unethical acts. And he gave him his support, which is helpful in giving him the courage to do what's right. The third step is to take it to the next level. Because Mr. Alderson was fired so quickly, he didn't really have time to take it to the next manager, the next manager. So what he did instead was he filed the wrongful termination lawsuit, and he talked with the lawyers at the hospital and with the hospital administration, and they all disagreed with him. They thought he was just fishing for something and that they weren't dealing unethically with the government. And so that's how he accomplished step 3, is by filing that lawsuit. Step 4 is to contact your company's ethics officers. Now, in this situation, like I said before, he was fired very quickly, so he didn't have probably any time to go to the ethics officer, and I don't even know if the company had an ethics officer. But what he did do is he contacted the previous hospital administrator and he asked for his advice. And that's where he was told about these things called false claims courts, where he can, on behalf of the U.S. government, sue the hospital that he worked for. And so that's how he accomplished step 4. Step 5 is to consider going outside of your chain of command. Once again, this one really isn't very applicable because he was fired so quickly. He didn't have a chance to go to somebody beside the professional management team. Then step 6, go outside the company. And I think he exemplified this one when he filed the false claims lawsuit. He had given them a chance. He filed the wrongful termination lawsuit. He tried to talk to the lawyers. He tried to talk to the hospital administration, but they wouldn't listen to him. So he decided to just outright sue the company for their unethical behaviors and how they were treating the U.S. government. And the 7th one is to just leave the company. And he did this, obviously, because he was fired. He stood up for what he believed in. The company didn't like it, so they let him go. And so that's how he ultimately left the company and accomplished step 7. So in conclusion, the article did end with just the start of the lawsuit. It hadn't been resolved at the time the article was written. But I did some research, and in 2001, the company that he worked for was found guilty of defrauding the U.S. government through the Medicare system, and they ended up settling for $85 million, of which Mr. Alderson received 25%. So while it's often really hard to stand up for what you believe in and really hard to do the right thing, it always pays off in the end. That's my presentation. Thank you.